Welcome to the Thriving Scapegoat, a podcast for women who are cast as the problem, when in truth, they were the truth tellers. I'm your host, Julie Cielo, somatic coach, author, and guide for women healing from complex trauma, family enmeshment, and the invisible wounds of being scapegoated. If you ever felt misunderstood, exiled, or blamed for dynamics you didn't create, if you've done the deep work to break the generational patterns and you're ready to reclaim your voice, your body, and your life, you're in the right place. This is where we stop over-explaining, stop performing for love, and start living in alignment with what's real. Here, we talk about nervous system healing, shadow work, emotional sovereignty, and what it takes to not just survive your past, but thrive beyond it. Because you were never too much. You were never the problem. You were the disruption to the dysfunction, and now you get to become the woman who rises because of it. Let's begin. Today, we're talking about the roles that we were given in the dysfunctional family. Welcome back to the Thriving Scapegoat. Before we begin today, I want to invite you into something a little bit different. So if you're listening while driving, obviously keep your eyes open. But if you're somewhere safe, let's pause for a moment. Take a breath into the belly. Exhale, feel your body, not the story, not the analysis. Just notice your jaw, your stomach, your chest, your shoulders. Do you feel open or tight or braced? Because most people that are coming from this type of background don't even realize what they're feeling in the body. And this is important because today we're talking about family roles: the golden child, the scapegoat, the lost child, the caretaker, and the enabler. And I don't want to talk about these roles just psychologically, but I want to talk about them somatically too, because these roles are not our personalities. They're our nervous system adaptations and survival strategies. So if you don't understand that, you'll spend years hating yourself for responses in your body developed in order to survive. So that role is not who you are. I think one of the most painful things about growing up in a dysfunctional narcissistic family is you begin to confuse adaptation with your identity. And you think that you're too difficult and that you're responsible for everyone and that you're only lovable if you achieve. But those are not your identities. Those are your nervous system responses. Children don't choose these responses consciously. They organize them around attachment, always, because attachment equals survival. So a child's nervous system will sacrifice authenticity in order to preserve the connection. And this is why two children raised in the same home can emerge completely different and have different memories even, because each child unconsciously takes on the system of the family, what roles they are, their stabilization techniques. They become an emotional extension of the family image. So the golden child, the one who disappears emotionally, the lost child, the one that overfunctions and caretakes, and the one who eventually carries the emotional projections of the unspoken truths is the scapegoat. That's what's most important to understand, is that no role is actually better. Some are just simply rewarded more openly. Let's talk about the golden child. That's often deeply misunderstood, especially by scapegoats like myself, because from the outside, it can appear that they get more love and they're more protected and valued, and sometimes they are. But the golden child also experiences profound conditional attachment, and their worth becomes based on performance. They learn that they have to be a certain way to stay safe, and this creates an enormous nervous system pressure, because underneath that approval is fear. Fear of losing their position, fear of failure, disappointing the system. And I've seen many a golden child reach midlife with profound anxiety, eating disorders, emotional collapse, because they spent decades disconnected from their authenticity. And this is where compassion is so important. Not enabling, not bypassing, compassion. Because dysfunctional systems wound everyone, just differently. So right now, just notice in your body, when I say golden child, what happens inside of you? Is there a tightness, an anger, a grief, or numbness? Just notice in your body how it reacts before your intellect does. That right there is somatic awareness. Most of us weren't taught how to listen to that. We're taught how to override it. The scapegoat. Now, done quite a bit of talking already about the scapegoat, but they're often the ones that perceives what the system is tolerating, the inconsistency, the manipulation, the emotional validity, the addiction. The scapegoat threatens the system, sometimes overtly, sometimes subtly, but through triangulation, dismissal, chronic validation, and character assassination, this becomes deeply self-critical to the scapegoat. When the entire system projects onto that person, especially as a child, I know I did. Even after building all kinds of things, after decades of yoga and meditation, I still believe that maybe I was the problem. Every time something would happen, oh, it must be my fault. This is deep nervous system conditioning. And that's why I say therapy alone is not enough. Insight doesn't create change. Intellectually, understanding family dynamics doesn't change things. You can know somebody's manipulative and still feel overwhelming guilt for saying no to them. That's how the body remembers that attachment threat. The nervous system remembers that if I stop participating, I might lose connection. And for a child, that's equivalent to their survival. And then there's the lost child and the caretaker, the one who disappears, who learns safety through invisibility. No needs, no conflict, no attention. These are often adults that struggle later to know what they want and feel and what they need, because self-erasure becomes safety. Then there's the caretaker, the one that's role is glorified, especially women, the helper, the healer, the overfunctioner, the woman who keeps everything together while quietly falling apart on the inside. I know that role pretty well too. I spent much of my life being in that role, financially, professionally, but being strong became my identity. But underneath all that strength was exhaustion. Overfunctioning is a trauma response, socially rewarded, but high functioning women don't realize how dysregulated they often are. And society rewards the adaptation. And this creates functional freeze, something that I think is deeply misunderstood in the healing world right now. The obsession with being regulated all the time. Honestly, I think it's becoming another form of spiritual bypassing, another performance. Many women are not actually regulated, they're disassociated, and there's a difference, a huge difference. Real regulation includes movement and emotion and flexibility and a sense of aliveness, appropriate anger and appropriate grief. It looks composed, functional freeze can look productive, but meanwhile, internally, the body's actually shutting down and collapsed. And that's why toxic positivity is so dangerous. When people start believing that healing means that they're never angry, they're never activated. That's not healing, that's suppression with a prettier language. The nervous system is designed to move and build capacity to complete the stress response, and then to reconnect, not to remain artificially calm all the time. Because women raised in these systems become experts at appearing okay while internally living through self-rejection, self-hatred, and the inner critic is the nervous system attempting to maintain that attachment through self-surveillance. If I monitor myself enough, if I perfect myself enough, I'll be safe. No. Making peace with this role matters. Not to stay identified with it forever, to stop shaming yourself for adaptations your body created intelligently. The scapegoat is not weak. The golden child is not shallow. And the caretaker is not just generous. The lost child is not lazy. These are nervous system strategies. And when we understand them somatically, compassion becomes possible. Not performative forgiveness, but real compassion, the kind that says, of course my body adapted that way. Of course I struggle with boundaries. Of course closeness feels complicated. That understanding softens the self-hatred. And that softening is where the healing can actually start to begin. So before we close today, just pause and notice your body, not who you think you need to be, just you breathing. And maybe for some of you, this is the first time you've considered that your responses are not character flaws, they're adaptations. And adaptations can change slowly, somatically. This is the work that brought me to somatic experiencing training and into creating seasonal somatics, because I realized that women don't need more self-improvement. They need nervous system repair and permission to feel honestly in spaces where they don't have to perform wellness while silently suffering. So if this resonates with you, I invite you to explore my work of seasonal somatics in the growing community that we're building around trauma-informed healing for women. You don't have to keep hating yourself for how your nervous system learned how to survive. This is the Thriving Scapegoat, where survival finally becomes self-understanding. Thank you for being here. See you next time. If today's episode resonated, that's your entry point. Healing scapegoating isn't just insight, it's nervous system work. And this is what I teach through seasonal somatics, a body-based method that helps you regulate, reconnect, and move with real change. I offer weekly group classes, both in-person and online, immersive retreats, and limited one-on-one mentorship. You can find all the details in the show notes. If this episode resonated with you, share it with someone who needs it, and make sure you're subscribed. Until next time, choose truth over belonging, self-trust over self-abandonment. You didn't just survive this to stay stuck, you're here to thrive.